What's up guys, this is Flaming Victini and we're back on the Smogon server for another SPL game. This one is pretty hype. We've got Reymedy versus TDK. TDK has brought an interesting team. It has a Terrakion, which you really don't see that often, but it's very, very good, especially I like a band set a lot because it hits very hard. Then he has like some solid defensive cores, Venu, Slowbro, T-Tar. T-Tar, I don't know what the Heatran set would be, but TDK's team is a little bit weak to Scizor, especially if it fast roost Scizor with superpower, because I don't know, like last mon, because like if TDK's way of dealing with Scizor is Skarmory, then yeah, but so I'm trying to speculate between the T-Tar and the Heatran sets, but Reymedy's team, looking at it, he's got a Slowbro of his own, a Thundurus, which looks like if it's HP Flying or Psychic Thundurus, which I don't know, it seems a little less likely for me, but it's possible, then that can be a big threat. And TDK actually leads off with the Venusaur, which is really good because he wants to get off that Mega Evolution as soon as he can, and there's the Thunder Wave. So yeah, basically Reymedy, oh my god. So there's a Sleep Powder miss on TDK's end, which was pretty annoying for him because that would have been kind of neutralizing one mon, but the T-Wave comes there, so that kind of shows me that Reymedy doesn't really have amazing ways to deal with this, but what this does do that's very important is that it means that the Slowbro can probably outspeed that Venusaur now, and that means that he can Calm Mind up and go for Side Shock. So TDK really needs to be careful about that Slowbro. That's looking like the biggest threat to me, to TDK's team. I'm trying to think of some major weaknesses that could be exploited from both sides. I mean, looking at Remedy's team and TDK's team, if TDK times Stone Edge versus Close Combat with a banned Terrakion, that could go really well, especially if he gets up Spikes and Stealth Rocks. And it seems like Remedy's play of choice right here is to basically go for just stay in and just try to wake up, as TDK is just going to stack up all of his own hazards, which I really agree with, because looking at Remedy's team, 5 out of 6 mons are grounded, which is really, really good for him. And there's the Whirlwind on the Swords Dance into the T-Tar, so this is looking pretty good for TDK. These spikes are never going to go away from Remedy's team, and 5 out of 6 mons are hit with it. It semi-neutralizes Slowbro's Regenerator, which is really good. And Reymedy doesn't really have a lot of ways to break this. He has the Thundurus, and there's the T-Tar Stone Edge, which does 38%, as TDK just goes for another Whirlwind and knocks it out into the Thundurus. I'm not sure how I feel about taking the Stone Edge. Maybe he could have roosted just to see what the T-Tar would want to lock into, or see if it's some rogue like band set, or I don't know. But I would have roosted right there if I was TDK. And then if you like Stone Edges, you can go to your Terrakion, you can go to your Slowbro. There's a lot of things you can do, but TDK very nicely pulls a switch into his Heatran rather than going straight into the Venusaur, because the stand is up and the Stealth Rocks are up, as well as the Venusaur is paralyzed, so it's going to slowly get worn down. And Reymedy also might try to double, predicting the Venusaur, so the Heatran accounts for that nicely. It also accounts for Reymedy just firing off in Hidden Power. I don't know, I think Thunderbolt is better than the Hidden Power in that case, but I'm pretty sure Thunderbolt does more to the Venusaur than HP Ice, so I'm not sure I agree with going for the Hidden Power Ice right there, but the Heatran does go out into the Venusaur because he does not want to risk the Focus Blast, as that's exactly what Reymedy goes for. And I mean, at this point, Remedy's set is pretty much fully revealed. It's just leftovers, Thunder Wave free attacks. So this Venusaur is in, and Sand is going to go down the next turn. TDK is free to fire off a Giga Drain, I think, as he just goes for a Sludge Bomb, and he does not poison the Garchomp, but I mean, Skarmory should still be perfectly fine. A +2 Garchomp should not be able to kill it from the ranges as Reymedy actually goes straight for the Dragon Claw and reveals that it's a Life Orb Garchomp, which is a bit more threatening, but in comes the Thundurus on the Skarmory. And this is the thing, TDK has to be careful with how he plays his Venusaur, because if he switches his Venusaur in too much on doubles that forces the Venusaur out, it can slowly get worn down, and that'll be a problem for TDK, especially if Paralysis comes in later in the game. That could be pretty big, that Paralysis. And TDK, if his T-Tar is Scarf, I don't know how well it deals with Slowbro, but what TDK could always do if his own Slowbro isn't Calm Mind is just try to Scald Burn that Slowbro or something like that, or I guess Thunder Wave it too, or Taunt and Toxic it with the Heatran. But I'm thinking that the T-Tar would be... Oh, Sorry about that, guys, but I'm thinking that the Cheetar, it doesn't necessarily have to be Scarftar. The only reason I say that is because TDK's team looks really weak to stuff like Tornadus, and also stuff like Calm Mind Zam. So so it might actually be Choppletar. Just like stuff like that seems really weak on TDK's end. And yeah, there's the T-Tar double into Venusaur, which I think was the best play on Reymedy's side right there, because not only does he get up the sand, but now he threatens to pursue this Venusaur. And I think going Venusaur right there was not the most optimal play, but he also couldn't risk Reymedy just going for a Focus Blast. So I don't know, it's kind of some predictions right there, and if Reymedy is aggressive enough with this Venusaur, he could break through it, which would be pretty big. But the other thing I'm considering now is that the Terrakion may be Choice Scarf, just because he doesn't have something that's very fast on his team, and he doesn't want to keel over to just stuff like Tornadus or Alakazam, just because he has nothing to outspeed it and hit it hard back. So the Terrakion might actually be Scarf, and it kind of works well with T-Tar because it gets the Sand boost to his Spadef, and that might be important if it needs to live some random hit. Oh, there's the Paralysis as Reymedy goes straight for the Stone Edge. I agree with going for the Stone Edge right there, because the Pursuit was kind of obvious, and also if the Venusaur does stay in, the Synthesis won't be recovering much at all. So in that turn, basically the Venusaur took Sand damage, and in comes the Terrakion on that T-Tar. Now right here, it depends on the set. I think we can run, I think we'll tell by the damage on this turn what set the Terrakion is, if a Reymedy does go to a Slowbro. Otherwise he might choose to just sack his Garchomp and bring in his Slowbro. But it won't really reveal much information as to whether this is Scarf or Band, and I'm kind of doubting that it would be some setup thing, but we see TDK actually double into his T-Tar. I guess this would be Scarftar then, as no, it's not Scarftar. So now we know that the T-Tar is not Choice Scarf, and it didn't seem like it would be Choice Scarf just the way TDK's team is built. But that Thunderous double is very good for Reymedy, and that Venusaur is looking very low now. Now it's at it's below 50% health when it comes back in from Stealth Rocks, and it's paralyzed. So Reymedy is playing well here to keep up the pressure on TDK's team, and TDK, I think having the Scarf Terrakion would be really good to try to just pressure Remedy's team, but Band Terrakion is also very good because if it clicks the right move, something on Remedy's team just dies. But I don't know. I think another problem I find with TDK's team is that if this Thunderous was just Volt Switch, then that makes wearing down the Venusaur infinitely more easier, and that just becomes really tough. But TDK makes the right call here by going into the Venusaur rather than trying to avoid, jump around, beat around the bush basically, and go to Heatran. But Reymedy knows that he can go into his T-Tar and try to get at that sand to limit the Synthesis. But TDK, oh, he gets paralyzed. I'm sure he went for the Synthesis right there, which would have kept him a bit above around 50% health when he comes back in. And that's definitely really bad for TDK. So now he has to be very careful about that Thunderous. Now that Thunderous is looking like a major problem, and if TDK, if he has Choppletar, he can possibly deal with it, as Reymedy just goes straight into his Thunderous on the Slowbro. So now it's taken some damage, and now something on TDK's team basically dies. If it's Spadef Tran, it probably can tank a Focus Blast, but Lava Plume won't probably kill this thing unless it crits or something, or it gets some burn damage. And if the Terrakion is not Scarf, then you have to kind of rely on Choppletar as well there. But TDK actually goes into his Skarmory. I'm not sure what to think about that, because I feel as if he's trying to hold on to the Venusaur. I see what he's doing actually. So this way, he can bring in his Venusaur right here, and try to Synthesis up. I think the T-Tar will die to, actually no, the T-Tar will not die to the spikes, so that'll be troublesome for TDK, but the T-Tar is asleep, and the Garchomp is dying Stealth Rock, so this doesn't really open up TDK to too much worries. He has Slowbro for the Lopunny, he has, what is it? He has Heatran for the Jirachi, and as well as Slowbro for the Jirachi, so the Garchomp is no longer a problem because it will die upon spike switches. So yeah, in comes the Venusaur, and Wow, it's at 20% health, but it's gonna be very low, and he can go for synthesis right here. Reymedy could go for the Reymedy could just go for the paralysis right here, and that would be pretty big. I feel like as if T-Bolt would not kill this Venusaur right here, just because Venusaur is such a tank, and this is leftover Thunderous rather than Life Orb. So either Reymedy can stay in and fish for the para, or he can go to his T-Tar on the synthesis and then try to limit its recovery. But Reymedy might just go straight for the para, but if he doesn't get it, that'll be much worse for him, because then this Venusaur can recover up much more than it would have. Although he will get a little bit of extra lefties, that's not really compensation. So I guess Reymedy is weighing whether he wants to try to go for the luck right here. And if he does stay in and get the paralysis, that's going to be very, very huge. TDK will be in a pretty tough spot then. If he does get that paralysis, that will be really bad for him. But TDK, he has been getting paralyzed quite a bit this game, so I wouldn't imagine that one more wouldn't happen, but there might also be some karma. But Reymedy is taking his time, really judging whether, I think he would go to T-Tar right here. But perhaps he's trying to consider how he can win with Slowbro. That might be one of his other win cons, because like he can also T-Wave the T-Tar if it tries to come in on the Thundurus. The Thundurus can spread a lot of Thunder Waves basically, and by doing that, he can set up his way for Calm Mind Slowbro to win the game. And he also might have Healing Wish with that Jirachi, or heck, even Healing Wish Lopunny. I wouldn't be quick to put that away because Reymedy likes to innovate. So I don't know. This is looking a little bit rough for TDK at the moment. He was going off strong, but Reymedy is playing his Thundurus really, really well, which is able to put a lot of pressure with TDK's team, combined with the rest of his physical mons. But he does decide to go to Lopunny actually, and TDK gets off the synthesis. So now he's back at a quite comfortable amount of health, and TDK chooses to stay in for another synthesis. Not sure whether it was worth risking that, because if he got paralyzed, that would have been pretty bad for him, and he only gained 5% at the use of a synthesis, so I don't think he'll really go for another synthesis right here, as he goes for the Giga Drain and KOs this Lopunny. So I guess he's just like, I'm not getting paralyzed, because I don't know, I don't agree with the second synthesis, but the Giga Drain is a fine play there, because this Venusaur is still pretty healthy, and he can still heal it up on the Thundurus later on in the game. And removing the Lopunny removes a lot more pressure. Removes a lot of pressure that's on the Slowbro, and the Slowbro. The problem with the Slowbro is that it invites the Thundurus in much more easily. So in that sense, Reymedy can utilize the Lopunny to get his Thundurus in on the Slowbro, and that's what's bad for TDK. But because the Thundurus is the only thing that's not being hit by the spikes, so Reymedy really needs to utilize that well. But in comes the Jirachi, and these spikes are putting a huge toll on Remedy's team. This thing already took 25%, which is pretty insane. And interesting to note, it actually says 75% health, rather than 76, so I don't know if that means that he has an even HP number, or something else. Alright guys, sorry about that, but Reymedy decides to just go for the Iron Head, and TDK brings in his Heatran on the Jirachi, so I don't really agree with just going straight for the Iron Head and letting this Heatran get up the rocks, because now that the rocks are up, this Thundurus is getting pressured every time it comes in, and these hazards are becoming pretty big, and they're putting a heavy toll on Remedy's team. Especially, yeah, like now the T-Tar also dies to spikes and rocks, so like these hazards are putting in a ton of work on Remedy's team, and TDK just needs to be careful with his Heatran, with his Venusaur really, and some paralysis can still decide this game, I think. If TDK doesn't have, he probably has, I don't know. I mean, if Heatran was the rocker, so T-Tar might just be banned maybe then, and then Scarf Terrakion, it might just be Chople like I expect, but there's a Focus Blast that misses, and TDK gets off a Magma Storm. And if he can tank another Focus Blast, he can just remove this Thundurus, but I'm not really sure if that's worth it, because you want to keep this around to be a bit more secure versus that Jirachi. And yeah, he does want to keep his Heatran around, so he does go into his Venusaur, and there's a second Focus Blast miss. So this gives TDK a free opportunity to go for the synthesis. Does he get paralyzed? No, he does not. And TDK decides to just, heck, I'm not going to risk anything. I'm not going to bother going for the synthesis. because this Venusaur doesn't really do much to the Jirachi or the Slowbro when it's paralyzed. So rather than risking paralysis and having the Thundurus get up to above 26% health, 25% health with the leftovers, he went for the Giga Drain, which is perfectly fine play right there. Because now that Thundurus is gone, and now this is looking like TDK is in command. At this point, really, I don't see much way for Reymedy to win. The Iron Head, there's no way the Jirachi can Iron Head flinch down the Heatran. He'd have to get like, I don't even know if he can get rolls higher than 7 and actually whittle it down. But in comes the Slowbro, which is a threat to TDK, as TDK decides to go into his T-Tar on the Slowbro's Psyshock. And Reymedy just does not risk anything, he just goes straight for the Scald, and if this is Bantar, then he can definitely take on the Slowbro. If it's not, TDK may have to play a bit of game with Magma Storm plus Taunt and his own Slowbro and Terrakion. But yeah, there's the crunch, and that looks like ban damage for sure. So TDK, I think, has pretty much won this game at this point. Garchomp dies to Hazards, T-Tar dies to Hazards, and Jirachi just loses to the rest of TDK's team. So Reymedy just forfeits right there, and that is the game. TDK is able to take it with a really nice, despite some unfortunate paralysis with the Venusaur, he was able to use it to sufficiently check Remedy's team, and the biggest thing was those spikes that TDK set up in the early games that just worn down Remedy's team so fast. He also got an opportunity to set up Stealth Rocks, which was again very huge, and the Focus Blast miss was definitely unfortunate for Reymedy, but Heatran probably tanked 1 at that point from a leftover Thundurus and got off that Magma Storm anyway, and Slowbro has a very good chance of taking on that Jirachi, especially when it can Regenerator around if he really needs to, and he has leftovers recovery, he's not taking much from Iron Head, and the Terrakion can also kill a non-Scarf Jirachi, and if it's Scarf himself, he can win. So I think TDK was in command this game. Reymedy played very well with pressuring the Venusaur, and that's really how you want to break these teams. You just set up some hazards, use some sand if you have it, and just wear down the Venusaur, keep wearing it down, and getting that Thunder Wave turn 1 was also pretty nice for Reymedy. And so just by keep wearing down that Venusaur, Reymedy was able to put a lot of pressure and grab a kill on that Skarmory, but he just wasn't able to take down the Venusaur itself, which didn't give the Thundurus much momentum to just break through TDK's team. So yeah, anyway, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and that's it. See you guys later.